Welcome to Ask the Funeral Director with Mike Voyajakis. Brought to you by Voyage Funeral Home and Crematorium. Now, here's your host, Brad Wilder. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ask the Funeral Director on this, Wednesday, May the 28th, end of the month already. It went by pretty quick. We've got lots to get to tonight. I can tell you that Mike has planned quite the show on tonight's episode, one of the most important I think we've ever done. We're exposing how some funeral homes, especially large corporation chains, mislead families using pressure, misinformation, and even commission-driven staff. We'll talk about sales staff pretending to be funeral directors, cremation and cemetery scams, emotional manipulation, and how you can protect yourself and your loved ones. There's more to come right here on Ask the Funeral Director after this.
I'm Michael Voyajakis of Voyage Funeral Home, Alexa's funeral director and embalmer in the province of Manitoba. Let's talk about simple cremation, and we'll talk about the price differences. At Voyage Funeral Home, simple cremation, $1,680, no hidden costs, no surprises. At Voyage Funeral Home, you get one thing for sure: continuity of care, treating your loved one as we would our own. What's included in simple cremation? Taking your loved one into our care from the place of death. Once we have your loved one into our care, we transfer to and from the crematorium. Voyage Funeral Home and Crematorium owns and operates a state-of-the-art cremation facility. We include all your administration fees, provide you with your Canada pension forms, allowing you to apply for up to $2,500 from the government, provide you with your surviving spouse benefit forms, allowing you to apply for up to 60% of your loved one's pension. We help you put an obituary together in the Winnipeg Free Press, the Winnipeg Sun, are absolutely free on our website. Continuity of care, family owned and operated. Voyage Funeral Home and Crematorium. When you're thinking simple cremation, think Voyage, $1,680.
Welcome back to Ask the Funeral Director. I'm Brad Wilder, along with Mike Voyajakis, the man with the plan, the man who gets it done and takes care of your loved ones on a daily basis when the time is needed. And in this day and age, you never know when that time will come, because there's been a lot of people just flopping over, right, Mike?
You know, today's a gift and tomorrow's never promised, right?
That's right.
This life in general. Going to say hi to some people this evening. Look at this. Gord, number one on the show, gives himself his own trophies, and he beats Steve Bage out by like 5 seconds. Oh, Daryl's awake for the show tonight.
Daryl's here.
Hey, boys. Randy. Hi, Mike. Brad. Randy from Toulon.
Yeah. Janet's here from Smithers, BC. Debbie Lamoureux is here today from West K. Kevin Hugh Sigurdsson is here. Terry Thiessen, Patricia Lukey. Who else you got?
Got a whole bunch of people here tonight. Al Bueller. Al Bueller was at my house doing some work. Good carpenter. The guy does a good job. If you ever need any work done, call Al Bueller. Just tell him to keep his shirt on.
Just text him.
Mike, good evening, everyone. Hanging out in Portage for the night. And Kathy, go ahead.
Tickle, tickle, tickle.
Janet's on the show. Wednesday is my favorite night of the week.
We can't talk about that here. No.
Patricia, hi, Brad Wilder, Mike Voyajakis, Debbie, good evening from Tabor, Alberta. I said it right this time.
You did. You did say Tabor, but boy.
Terry Good. Terry Good, he's the guy with the horse who had the Jets flag on.
My man, he says.
My man. Ryan. Hey, Ryan, good evening. Whole bunch of people on the show tonight. Kevin. Well, we should give him a little bit of a plug.
Hey, Kev.
Hey, Kev. Where's he from? Canada Silver.
Canada Nano Silver. Got to remember the nano.
Canada Nano Silver. I always forget that. I don't know what it is. You know, Brad, I have a...
That's tiny particles.
Tiny particles. Before we get in the show, just have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
And, I've been running across this a lot lately and having conversations with people about this.
No, I'm a good guy. I keep telling you, man. I'm sorry they say that things about me, but...
But do you ever... you have somebody in your life and you don't really show the appreciation to that person that you should. And then you wake up one morning and they're gone. We need to learn to appreciate the people in our lives and tell them that we love them and tell them that we miss them and kiss them goodbye, kiss them hello. And there's so many times that life just goes on. We get busy and we forget about those that we love, and we forget to tell them that we love them. That goes for our kids and our family and our relatives. And our spouses. And sometimes as life goes on, you just forget the important things in your life. And the important things in life is remembering somebody.
You know, this last 5 years has confused a lot of people.
Yeah. And
brought a lot of people to the point of being exactly as you're talking about right here, right now. And that has led to all kinds of family troubles along the way. And you've been dealing with many a suicide. And, it starts with just lack of communication. And the communication that is happening over the last 5 years has been troublesome because we're dealing with topics that we've never had to discuss before.
Yeah.
You never would think that the government would be doing this to any of us, and here we are.
And the funny thing is, sometimes we wait and it's too late. The person's gone. And I see that way too often in death, where the family says, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it's too late. So I'm encouraging you tonight, if there's somebody in your life, which I'm sure there is, tell them you love them, be with them, show them that you care, and most of all, make them feel important in your life. That is the most important thing we could do, is showing people the love while they're alive. There's no use buying flowers when somebody dies. Send flowers to somebody while they're alive.
Great point.
And that goes for a lot of things. It goes for relationships while you're alive, your wife, your husband, your kids. And far too often we push our children aside.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they could be in a dark place, and it's really important to talk to them about things. I know this week I was dealing with Josh, and he said something that was kind of bizarre. And I said, I sat down and I talked to him, and I said, no, Josh, that's not the way it works. And I explained to him the way it does. Sometimes we just need to listen. Listening is a big thing, and hearing what's coming out of our children's mouths sometimes kind of guides you into what's in their hearts. And it's important to just open your hearts and be good people. We got Larry on the show, Mike's on the show, Randolph is on the show, a whole bunch of people tonight. Tonight is an interesting show. It's topics that you don't hear too often, but it's how funeral homes take advantage of families, grieving families. And Brad's going to get into this. We're going to get into a video first.
You've been wanting to expose some of this for a while now, right?
It's people, you're going to lose a loved one sometime in your life. And if you have the ammo to walk in and be prepared for what's going to happen, then you're not going to be taken advantage of. It's people that don't educate themselves today for peace of mind tomorrow that get taken advantage of. And I could tell you that you can, pay $1,600 for a cremation, or you could pay $7,500 for a cremation.
Yeah.
And if you're not educated and you don't have peace of mind and you walk in and you just take that director's word, we're going to get right into all this, then you're going to get taken advantage of. And the bottom line is, you pay the price. That's what it adds up to. You pay the price. It comes out of your pocket.
It's an expensive one, isn't it?
And it's getting more expensive. So that's why we need to be on top of topics like this.
Agreed.
Let's go into the first video.
You want to look at this video? We've only got one video tonight.
We only got one video tonight because the show is kind of action-packed.
Just wanted to remind you that because you keep saying videos, and I'm like, uh-oh. I don't have many. I've got one.
Well, let's play the one video that we have.
So how does this go down? This breaks down into little mini chapters almost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 or 14 different parts. What parts are we playing today? Are we playing just number one, or are we skipping along? Or?
So this is you're going to play this whole part.
Play the whole video?
Yeah, it's a couple of minutes.
It's only 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it just describes what's happening in funeral service from this guy's point of view. And then we'll get into the show, which is going to be exciting.
It is going to be exciting.
And you can leave comments, and we'll answer those comments. Love the comment section on the show. Please like, share, and follow the show. There's somebody out there who needs to hear this tonight. Sometimes you watch the show, and you never know if you're going to lose a loved one overnight.
Ready?
Ready?
Here we go.
According to a 2020 Auditor General's report in Ontario, consumers of funeral products and services were found to not be adequately protected against high-pressure sales tactics and even receiving misleading information. This is James from Life Transitions. In this video, we want to share with you 5 sales tactics that are not necessarily in your best interest, and they also break down the delicate trust in the funeral transaction. Only the best. We all understand wanting the best for our family members, to honor them, to cherish them, but often the only the best tactic is directly tied into the most expensive. We would say that the best tactic should be connected with what's best for your budget, what's best for your family, what's best for your needs. That's what's best for you. Second guessing. That's when you've made a selection, you've made a choice, but then you're second guessed in a kind of a manipulative way to ask you, are you sure that's what you want? Are you sure that's going to be good enough? And they're kind of imposing a value in there that you haven't brought, but they have brought to the question to almost kind of guilt trip you into another selection that's more expensive. The package deal. Well, this is when a funeral home would package services and merchandise together to potentially save you money, but actually what happens is things in that package you don't need anyway, so you end up spending more money and have less value in the package. The omission factor, that's where a funeral home would quote you a certain price for services, but then when you get to the bottom of the bill, there's a very different amount because certain things have been omitted in the conversation. Things like cash disbursements, things like taxes, things like other fees. Things have been omitted. The upsell, that's where you've made a sound choice. You've assessed what you wanted as a service or merchandise, and then you get a very clear sense that the person is moving you or trying to move you up to the next level, to the next model that of course costs more, but you're being upsold. Our goal is to better inform you, the consumer, helping you to recognize tactics like this that would work to erode the trust between you and your funeral home. We would encourage you to always bring someone with you, shop around, start your shopping and your education at home on the internet if you can, and certainly select a provider that you can trust. If you found this video helpful, we'd encourage you to share it. We'd encourage you to subscribe to our channel and enjoy the rest of the videos.
Yeah, we'd love to see the rest of your videos. I mean, I'm sure that they're quite adequate to learning more stuff. And but we got the expert right here beside me, so we don't need you tonight.
We have a live video right here. We're
right.
going to do the show, but we're going to answer questions at the same time. And Kathy Tickle has a question. My husband has a pacemaker. How will I speak with a funeral director that may want to charge a fortune to remove it? So here's what happens. Funeral directors charge to remove a pacemaker. They'll tell you it's a surgical procedure to move a pacemaker, and it's not. It's one of the lies we're going to expose tonight in funeral service. And you could pay as far as $600, $700, whatever they can get out of you for removing that pacemaker. I could tell you that I can probably remove a pacemaker in probably under 2 minutes, and that's completely taking that pacemaker out. And people say, well, why do I have to remove the pacemaker? Well, the pacemaker needs to be removed prior to cremation. Otherwise, it'll do what a battery does if you put a battery in your oven. It'll explode. So that's why you need to remove pacemakers, and it's important to do that. How do you talk to a funeral director about that? You ask them in advance. Before you choose a funeral home, you ask, how much will you charge to remove the pacemaker? Important question.
Absolutely. We're going to get to that later.
Talking about another important question, did you know that there's another virus brewing in China?
How come you got to say that? I wanted to expose that. I don't want you to get in trouble. So let me just say a few things here. You're right. I do know about it. And I know about it because you kind of told me about it earlier today. This seems to be hitting the market just 2 days ago and then really is starting to get exposed within the last 12 hours.
But before you go any further,
yeah.
Do you think the people, even the people watching the show, are going to fall for that a second time? Like, it's clear already. They've made it clear, and people that were called conspiracy theorists all this time, now the truth is the truth, and it's come out.
Yeah.
So do you think people would actually fall for another virus, more lockdowns?
Do you think that they may have released something worse than the last thing that they said that they released? I don't know. There's a lot of questions. We have no answers. We are not the experts. We're not doctors. We're just two guys sitting here chatting about all kinds of things, and this show is really
it's the people in the
value.
comment section. Do they think that do they think a virus would scare them this time? Would they lock themselves up?
They can answer that.
Would they quit work?
So the new virus is called NB181. Now, this is currently the dominant SARS-CoV-2 variant that's playing out in the U.S. Now, there's only supposedly 20 people that are in that position of having this virus.
20 today, 60 tomorrow.
6,000 tomorrow. Watch. I mean, they'll count that. If they're going to start counting again, we're in a whole lot of trouble, aren't we? This NB181 and XFG are now spreading the fastest, with the former leading the way. So the NB181. So let's see what happens here. I mean, are people going to fall for it? Is there something there? Could it really be a real virus that was leaked out of Wuhan? Bat Lady was involved. Wuhan was involved again.
Winnipeg was involved.
I don't know.
They say the lab in Winnipeg. Who knows?
Who knows?
I think a majority of people will not fall for this again. I think more people will go, More BS. We're not doing it this
okay,
time
let's talk about that, because I think you got people who are saying that I'm not going to play along. I'm not going to play into that. People did that last time too. But once the government speaks and the mainstream media gets a hold of it, and the mainstream media nails down every grandma and grandpa and everybody else who doesn't check the internet for their news,
Well, you're right, because
we're in the same boat, buddy.
there's people driving around still. I seen a person driving around the other day with a mask on, all by themselves in the car.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a police officer.
I saw a
out of
guy
all
outside
people.
working in his yard today with a mask
Yeah,
on.
how do you
What are
do that?
doing,
Like, I
dude?
just don't understand. Like, how are people thinking? Has something happened to people's minds in this last little while where people can't think the way they used to think? Like, it really is a true question I'm asking, because you kind of wonder.
question about it.
And if people fell for this a second time, this time we should never comply. I think people should literally go to the streets like they do in European countries by the millions.
I think you better start
By the
asking a
millions.
whole lot more questions before you start to make any judgments this time around too,
Yeah,
and start
yeah,
to
yeah.
get
Well,
the
you know what?
real results.
I'm not. I didn't believe it the first time around, and I was right in my heart. And I don't believe it the second time around. And we see what's happening all around. You know, they're trying to put in these
CBDCs, central bank digital currency, happens
The
when they
currency's
do this
happening,
stuff.
and then all these complex housing
That's
that they're
next.
trying to put up. Where
That's right.
Fourplexes.
Are
in
you going to
people's
that tomorrow
backyards.
night?
I can't go tomorrow night, but I wish I could. I wish
Is
I
it-
could speak there, but
Maybe somebody online knows if we can show up a different day and speak
more than
on
likely
this.
they're not going to let
because-
me speak if I went there anyways. Just like
No, but
last
I
time.
think if you wrote the script, I might just go up there and present your script and your words.
But if you look at all the things that are happening, it's geared to the 2030 reset, including Carney stepping in as Prime Minister. And I talked with a guy the other day, and he says to me, "Oh, give him a break. He's new. You're not giving the guy a chance. Listen to him. He's trying to
I
do the
agree,
right
Debbie.
thing." And I'm thinking this guy was giving Trudeau advice on how to do things, and you're telling me he's doing the right thing? I don't believe it for a minute.
no, there's no way he's doing the right thing.
But with fourplexes and 15-minute cities and all this stuff happening, it's coming alive in front of our eyes. We just don't see it.
Yep.
People just don't see it, and they're not awake enough to realize that this is happening. It's happening in our city. With the bike lanes, everything. I mean, we're in Winnipeg, and most of the year it's winter here, and I think 99% of the people don't ride their bikes in the winter. So,
True story.
what a waste of money on some of the things that are happening in the city of Winnipeg. But anyways.
Okay,
The virus is out, and we'll find out.
The
where it
word
goes.
on the street is the virus is out. Let's see what happens from here. There's going to be obviously lots of time to figure things out. I mean, it's only a couple of weeks to spread the,
Yeah,
what is it? Save the curve, spread the curve. Something,
yeah.
I don't
Just
know.
kind of keep it.
I don't
keep
even
it
remember
low
that.
for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, just keep it on the down low. All right, so hey, Stale staff now pretending to be funeral directors, cremation and ceremony scams, or cemetery scams rather. Well, I guess ceremonies too, because they are filled with ceremonies, aren't they? How about the emotional manipulation and protecting your own loved ones and even yourself from some of these funeral directors that pull these scams, Mike? It's a tricky and touchy situation in that regards. Most families assume that they're speaking with a licensed funeral director. In many corporate-owned homes, though, I guess that's not necessarily true now, is it?
No, you go into a funeral home and you think that you're sitting with the funeral director, and he hands you a card, and the card says family counselor. So you're thinking, well, it must be a funeral director. Or it says arrangement specialist.
Right.
And you're thinking, well, got to be a funeral director or pre-planned advisor. So they use all these titles to make it sound like they're licensed funeral directors without telling you that they're not. And those are the people that are salespeople. They're working on commission. Licensed funeral directors are regulated. They're legally accountable for what they do or say. They're educated in law, ethics, and grief care. Sales staff are trained in closing deals, upselling services, and maximizing revenue. Basically, what they know how to do is they know how to get into your pocketbook and pull out as much cash as they possibly can. And that's what it is. So every time you walk into a funeral home, instead of assuming that you're sitting with a licensed funeral director, so if you see my card at the funeral home, it says
Are you a licensed funeral director?
licensed funeral director, a licensed embalmer.
And you've
so there's
taken all the classes that are involved.
you know,
You've
you
got
go
your
through 2 years of
paperwork. If I
school
look on
and-
your wall in your office, you're going to see
There you
all
go.
that up there behind you, right?
So I can honestly say that if I wasn't a licensed funeral director or an embalmer in the province of Manitoba, I probably wouldn't work in funeral services. I'm sure I don't have a lot of fans in the funeral industry because we expose things like this all the time.
Sure.
And it's funeral homes like Voyage to keep people honest because our prices are reasonable. We're doing things the right way. We own our own crematoriums. We own our own vehicles. We own our own buildings. We have chapels. We have reception areas. So we serve your family to the best of our ability, but we do it ourselves.
Oh, and
without
the food is
subcontracting else.
stellar. The food is stellar.
Ask every time, Brad, are you a licensed funeral director? Most important thing. So if Brad was working in the funeral home, which he does, and if people saw him, he's dressed in a suit and tie, looks good.
Oh, they ask me if I'm you all the time. I say, no, I'm the tall, skinny guy.
He looks like a funeral director. I mean, he's got the hair and the look, and people always walk up to him thinking that he's a funeral director. But in all reality, he's not. That's why you need to ask.
No, seriously, they say,
I know.
are you Mike?
So that's what I mean about don't ever assume, and it's important because these are real pressure tactics and sales that these people use. Let me go through on basic cremation scam, for example. You get an ad that shows $12.95 for cremation. You phone the funeral home and they say, yeah, our cremation price is $12.95, and then you think, well, that's a great price. Ends up that it's over $3,000 after they add in the identification viewings, the cremation container, the paperwork processing fees, and many other add-ons that are optional that families aren't told about on the phone. So that's the thing. You walk into Voyage, it's $1,600 for cremation, $80 for tax, so it's $1,680 in total. There's no hidden costs, no surprises. But when you walk into a funeral home, it's called it's a bait system that they use, a bait and hook system.
Bait and switch?
That's bait and switch, but bait and hook especially, because they bait you by giving you a price. And then when you walk into a funeral home, you're there already.
Come in, you're going to get this TV, but hey, we're going to upgrade you to this one instead.
You're in the funeral home already. You think your parents are there or whoever passed away. So now they hook you by saying, well, your dad's in the back. It's mandatory to do identification viewing. It's mandatory to embalm. It's mandatory, all the things that they say that you have to do. So it's really scary.
Is an embalming mandatory?
No, so embalming is a lie. It's not mandatory.
Really?
So there's many traditional funerals we've done, especially in the Greek community, European community, where they don't want their loved one embalmed. So they ask us, and we're honest with them. We say, yes, you could do a service without embalming. The only stipulation is that we don't let you kiss your loved one or touch your loved one.
I'm going to assume it's best to get this person embalmed as quickly as possible.
So that's what they'll tell you.
Wouldn't you recommend the same thing just because?
It's up to the family. So
you leaving them on the
leaving them in. You got to give family options, right? So if they're wanting to have a service a week down the line, then
how about 2 weeks?
Well, you have to embalm. I mean,
how about a trip across seas?
You got to embalm with a stronger index chemical, right? So it's the game that they play about the cremation.
So ask lots of questions know lots of stuff.
So here's something to have in your pocket. So your loved one does not need to be embalmed prior to cremation. That's a lie. You don't have to do an identification viewing. That is also a lie. You don't have to buy a casket for cremation. Another lie. It goes on and on and on. They'll tell you need vehicles, a vehicle fee, environmental fees, all kinds of fees that they tell you have to pay. All those are wrong. The pricing should all be in writing. You should sign a contract with them. And many, many people are told embalming is mandatory. They're all told that, and they're telling you refrigeration is legal in most areas. Families mislead you into paying $800 to $1,200 just to refrigerate.
So the embalming part of things doesn't need to happen, and it doesn't need to happen if you're going into cremation or whether you're going to be laid to rest in the ground.
So let's just say you have a service that's 3 days after the person died. Yeah. Right? So, you pick up the person from the hospital.
Outdoors, you're going to the cemetery.
So you pick up the person from the hospital. They're in a cooler already. You bring them to the funeral home. You wash, clean, disinfect, and you set the features and place the person in the casket. Now, by doing that, there's, opportunities of things happening, like something we call purge and stuff like that. But a good embalmer can protect the family from that. So what does embalming do? Preservation, restoration, sanitization. So it protects the family.
What if I don't want you doing any of that? What if I want to go straight from being cold to straight into the oven?
So most people will tell you that you can't do that. Most people will tell you that it's mandatory to identify the body.
You would do that, though.
Of course, we do that all the time. Simple cremation at Voyage, like you saw at the beginning, is taking your loved one into our care from the hospital. Once the paperwork is signed, directly to our crematorium, where the cremation takes place with no hidden costs, no surprises.
What if it wasn't at the hospital? What if it's at home?
Well,
same thing.
care home.
Oh, it's the same thing.
Doesn't
Okay.
matter where the death is.
All right.
We take you, once the paperwork is signed, even if the paperwork is done the day after, we take you from the house.
Now the government gets
care
in the
home,
way a little
the
bit, right?
hospital. Well, there's no government regulations really when it comes to this.
No,
It-
but what? Let me ask you something, because I think this is maybe not what I'm getting at. The regulations that I'm talking about is that the government can honestly say, or maybe it's a province, but it would be the provincial government who would say, we need to know the cause of death.
So that's an autopsy.
I know, and that's what I'm saying to you. What if I didn't want the autopsy?
So,
Can I
okay,
get away from
I'm
that?
gonna tell you what
I just
happens
want to
there.
go from being dead to in the oven.
So when you're dead, you become the property of the medical examiner's office. So the family has really no say. They'll ask the
Really?
family, would you like an autopsy? Most families would say no. Then they override you because the body's in their care and now they're in care of that body until they release it. So if they look through the chart and feel that there's something not right, then they'll send you for an autopsy and your family really can't do anything about it. So that's what happens.
I
You
thought about trading you to another hockey team, but I really hate you, and I'm not going to do that. So you're going to have to sit here, and you're going to have to wait until I decide what to do with you. Wow, that's like they own us, right? Doesn't it feel like the
medical
government owns
examiner's
you?
office becomes you become the property of the
The
medical
government.
examiner's
You
office.
become the property of the government.
Let's use Kyriakis for my brother, for example.
Okay.
Right. He would have never wanted an autopsy. Neither would have we for him. But they had so much control that they wouldn't let us see him. They took him into their care. They automatically did an autopsy, and then they only released them when the autopsy was complete and they had the results that they needed. So that happens with anybody who loses a loved one. You can't override the medical examiner's office. It's what happens.
So you're hoping for an untragic death. So let me ask you then: if it was a car accident,
So
They-
every car
they-
accident's automatically
Autopsy.
autopsied.
murder,
Murder
homicide,
automatically autopsy, homicides, all those things automatically.
somebody dies at
autopsy.
Walmart walking through the store, has a heart attack, coronary, they die right then and there. Autopsy.
So here's what happens with that. So
How do you get away from an autopsy, Mike?
You-
Because
you-
this is crazy.
You die of natural causes.
That's it, eh?
Yeah, and I'd say 50% of the bodies we get are autopsied, and the other 50 are not.
Yeah, eh?
So that's pretty. I mean, if you're older, dying in a care home. So if you want to die, just die in a care home.
I'm going
Don't
to pray
over-
right now. Please don't let the autopsy thing happen. I don't want the autopsy thing to happen.
There's
We're
some
talking about
questions
taking
here.
your...
that Remedy Max had a question. Well, before we get into the next one.
Okay, go ahead.
Question about embalming solution. Can a body experience an allergic reaction to the embalming fluid? Many people have allergies while alive. So curious. No. So basically, when a person is deceased, the body's not working like it used
Peanut
to.
allergy doesn't matter.
Pain and allergic reactions aren't going to matter. And the solutions that we use in our chemicals, so we counteract everything that happens. So if a person died of a heart attack, and usually a person dies of a heart attack by the color in their face. They get a bluish, purplish color
Sure.
in their face. So a funeral director could take that out for reviewing. So yeah, there's the big thing on autopsies.
Let's talk about guilt tactics for a bit, Mike, because I think guilt tactics are something that are driven by, shisty kind of
And that's the thing.
directors. Right?
When you walk into a funeral home and you're dealing with a sales professional, he knows how to use every guilt tactic possible. Would your dad want this cheap casket?
Probably not.
And then you think about it in your mind. You got to remember, you're in an emotional depression. You're not in the right. You're vulnerable when you're walking into a funeral home. And as we talk about this now, it's easy to talk about. What if when you lose your dad or your mom, all of a sudden it's a shock to you, and you walk in and you hear all these things, and you're going, "Yeah, do I want to put my dad in a cheap casket?" They open up that door, and then it plays on your minds and your emotions. So this reflects how much you love them. They'll tell you. The casket you buy reflects on how much you loved your mom or dad. So if you buy them that cheap casket, is that showing that you didn't really care for them? You could just put them in the least expensive casket you can buy. So basically, it's designed to create shame and to create families to overspend. And it's a big thing. You're walking into, guilt. And when you're in an emotional status you're hurting, you've just lost your mom, your dad, your brother or sister, whoever, a family member, you don't feel like being at the funeral home. You think that this guy's guiding you because he's a licensed funeral director and he's not going to take advantage of you. And that's another thing. People walk in thinking, well, they're not going to take advantage of me. They do this for a living. They're here to help people. Don't ever believe that. There's a difference between corporate funeral homes, private-owned funeral homes, a difference between salespeople and licensed funeral directors. We'll talk about that as we go on.
Okay, so package deals, there's lots of that. I'm sure everybody's got a package, everybody's got a brochure. There's probably, 30 different packages to every company. Picking options, deciding, urns, caskets.
Here's the catch.
All
to
of it.
this.
It's
There's a catch
crazy.
to this. You walk in there, these salespeople will do this to you. They'll say, we have an $11,000 package or an $18,000 package, and this package is sold the most popular. It includes the limo, the slideshow, the memorial book,
I'd like the Walmart package, please, for $9.99.
there's lower priced options.
Clean up
but
on
they're-
aisle 3.
There's lower priced options, but they're hidden and discouraged.
Sure.
So they'll tell you that the $11,000 package is the one people use the most. And that's not true. That's the one they use the least. But a good salesperson knows that. Kevin's asking you a question
So they
here.
start to play on
Kevin
it.
says, replying to Mike, cardboard box for me. Yeah. So I want to talk about cardboard box. When you come to Voyage, the price for simple cremation is $1,600. And we don't sell you a casket. We will never sell you a casket. I don't believe in selling caskets.
It's
for cremation.
$1,000 cardboard box. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So we have a basic cardboard container. It looks like a casket. It's got a lid on it. And we place the person in there in a very dignified way.
I've seen it, actually.
Yeah, and you know what? It does the same thing as a casket does. The only thing is, when you cremate a casket, you're getting wood chips back and the cremated
Lots
remains.
of different remains.
You're getting metal parts. You're getting all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's
screws,
not your loved one
nuts.
anymore.
Yeah, so the thing is, funeral service is a scary place to walk into if you're unaware.
How many those kind of shisty kind of funeral homes would actually tell the individuals that they were going to put them in this big expensive coffin and then turn around and they used a cardboard box and they just stuck
You
they
kinda-
use this coffin in a rotational business.
You kind of wonder, because I would never want to cremate a casket in our cremators. It's not good for the cremator either. It wears out the cement. It's lots of wear and tear, moving that casket, grinding in and
bigger
out.
smoke signal coming out
You
the
have
stack.
tons
huh?
of smoke coming out. It's an uncontrollable fire because of what happens. Yeah, don't ever buy a
Are you
a casket for
under
cremation.
regulations when there's a fire ban, Mike?
No.
Just thought I'd ask.
Talking about fire bans, another fire ban in Manitoba again. and
Yeah,
it's-
well, up north is pretty bad, man. Lynn Lake,
it's pretty crazy
Swan
what's
River.
happening. Love the
not Swan
comment
River.
section. You know what we can
Snow
just so
Lake.
you know we could see the.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brad. For,
It's
for
okay. I
interrupting.
was just saying Snow Lake,
Yeah, it's
Thompson,
all over
Flin
the place.
Flon, the Paw.
Piney.
Yeah, all of them.
I know Viola Love lives in a area where there was a fire taking place. I don't know if it's still happening now. Let's talk about urgency and pressure.
Okay.
So when you walk into a funeral home, they use pressure on you by telling you, if we don't book now, we lose the chapel time. We can't guarantee you cremation dates unless we sign for today. Families rushed into choices before even thinking clearly. And that's part of the pressure sales. Getting in there, getting in your head, and then you're thinking, well, I want to have a service right away. But then they tell you, well, if you don't book today, you won't get a service this week. We can't book a cremation time for you. So all these are delays in your mind. And again, you're in an emotional state. So Remedy Max, what was the most expensive funeral offer? If somebody would say money being no object. Well, we sell a gold casket through Batesville. It's $65,000. That same casket at other funeral homes is almost $100,000.
Really?
So the markup in these caskets are incredible.
Gold.
Gold casket. So Michael Jackson was buried in one of those caskets. Gold casket.
Really?
Other people in Winnipeg that I know who've passed away were buried in those gold caskets. One guy even buried his dog in that gold casket. So I guess it all depends on the cash.
It's all about the do-re-mi, isn't it?
Lac du Bonnet area where Viola lives is, I believe, yeah, wow, no diamonds.
Okay, we own our own crematorium lie. There's lots of lies with that. Many people will say that they do. Many homes say that they own it, but they don't. Cremation's outsourced miles away without, I guess, disclosing location. Where's yours?
So our crematorium is located in Selkirk, Manitoba. So we have 2 active cremators or retorts running now, and we've just put a 3rd one in, and we're just waiting for clearance to get that one
That's
working.
in the
So
back shop. I don't even get to see it, do I?
We're going to have 3 cremators running. So here's another scam in funeral service that you need to watch for. somebody puts up a Mickey Mouse sign saying, Joe's Cremation Service,
Your loved one's behind this piece of wall.
Joe's Cremation Service, and you think, well, they must own a crematorium. They're advertising a low price, like, $1,200, for example. So you go in there and you make arrangements, and then you say to the funeral director or salesperson or whoever you're dealing with, oh, I'd like to see my mom one last time. Where is my mom? Where's your crematorium? And then they got to come clean with you because they don't have a crematorium. They subcontract out the third parties. Absolutely no continuity of care. It really frustrates me because who are you getting back? Like, you don't know which crematorium they're using. You don't know what their morals are. You don't know what their standards are. You don't know what their building looks like, how, cleanliness, how they take care of your loved one. Are they cleaning out the machine after? Are they mixing cremated remains together? Who are you getting back?
It's time to put you on the spot for a second.
You could never put me in a spot.
Okay, let me try.
Okay.
You're the guy who has 3 crematoriums, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
How many of those crematoriums get used by other companies that bring their loved ones to you instead? They lie.
I could be really honest with you here, and I could say we do not do cremations for any other funeral home. So Voyage Funeral Home provides cremation services only for the families that we serve.
Really?
So Funeral Home A, Joe's Cremation Service, came up to us and said, oh, Mike, we'd like to use your crematorium. Well, we're not greedy. This is not about money. This is about serving families. This is about doing the right thing. So we maybe if a funeral home went through a fire who owned a crematorium or something tragic happened, then maybe we would reach out and help that funeral home. But for a funeral home that's just opening up and advertising that they're a crematorium, I think it's very unethical.
Agreed.
To do that. And if you're advertising, I'm going to tell you a quick story. When we opened up the funeral home, I think I shared this a little while ago. A family came into the funeral home who lost. She was young. Her husband was young. They really didn't have a lot of money. But when they came into the funeral home, I remember this lady saying this to me. This was back in 1998. I handed her the urn with the cremated remains in it. And she said to me, are these my husband's cremated remains? Can you guarantee me that they're my husband's cremated remains? And this was the first time I was kind of put on a spot. And I almost instantly had tears in my eyes because I couldn't answer the question, meaning I couldn't give her closure. I couldn't give her peace of mind because I didn't do the cremation.
Right.
We subcontracted out the cremation like most people do. And then what happened was I went home that night and I had a couple of very sleepless nights thinking, okay, Mike, either Voyage opens up a crematorium or we shut down this funeral home because it's unethical, it's wrong to subcontract out cremations and tell people that we're doing it. Meanwhile, we're not. There's no guarantee they're getting their cremated remains back. There was so much wrong with it. So much wrong with it. And then we're just the middle person making money when they can actually go to a funeral home that owns a crematorium.
Yeah.
Right? And why not go directly?
The real deal.
Yeah, go to the real deal. So we decided either we invest in our business and add crematoriums or we close down Voyage Funeral Home. And obviously we invested in our business and we opened up our own crematorium and we built our own buildings and we did everything you needed to do things properly. So yes, we own our own crematoriums. And even though you tried to catch me on the spot, and there's other things that happen too. Hidden fees for witnessing. So they tell
watching.
You, yeah. So if you want to come and watch a cremation,
how does that happen? Because I don't want to get hot.
So we offer a service to families where families could come into the funeral home and say their goodbyes one last time. We're proud of our crematorium. There's nothing to hide.
You have a window too, right?
Super clean, super tidy. Everything's done professionally. What we do is you come in, you say your final goodbyes, you see your loved one in that cremation container covered in a nice cover that we have, so you wouldn't even think it's and then we take off the cover, place the cremation casket in the machine, and then we even allow a family member to push the button to start the cremation. And then for insurance purposes, once the machine starts running, we ask the family to leave. So some families are getting charged for witnessing a cremation. And that's because they're being taken advantage of. So these are all the questions you need to ask prior to going to a funeral home. And don't fall into the traditional rut. Here's the traditional rut. Grandpa went to funeral home X. Grandma went to funeral home X. So I guess we got to take mom or dad to that same funeral home. That's where you really get taken advantage of, because you go in there, they pull out Grandpa's file and they go, well, Grandpa had a $20,000 casket. We still have that available today. It's now $24,000.
You know, unnecessary urns and all of that, even a vault possibly. You just scroll back up on the comments section tonight for just a second, because I saw something that was quite interesting there from one of the viewers. Janine Olson says, the most amazing thing with Voyage is they let us borrow the urn for the day of the service. They didn't put any pressure on us to buy one for the day. Very kind and compassionate. Now that happens all the time. I mean, I've been working for you now for about a year, and I ran into that quite regularly, where we're going, well, come pick an urn, and we'll do your thing.
You got to be compassionate to families and caring and understanding. And some families don't need an urn because they're going to scatter, but they want a nice urn for the service. So what we offer is we tell a family, come into our selection room, pick an urn that you'd like, and we put it out on display for the family. And in some cases, we have a rental urn that we don't charge families for, and we give it to them so they could take to their service, because you want everyone to have a dignified funeral,
right.
And you want everyone to have closure, and you can't have a cardboard container up
So
there.
if it was at a church service, you would do that?
Of course. We help families in any way we can,
Yeah.
There's we have urns that are available that a family could take to the church and not buy it. And a lot of families come back to the funeral home after they've cremated a loved one, they've bought an urn, and then they go, well, we don't know what to do with this urn anymore. Like, what do we do with it? And they give it to us, and they ask us to donate it to a family. So what we do with that urn is we use it as a rental urn, where we tell families, oh, you can take this urn, and we'll place the cremated remains in there, take it to your church, have your service, and bring it back. That's just a classy thing to do. And it shows people that you're a dignified, caring, loving funeral home. You're not only there for the money, and a lot of funeral homes these days are corporately owned, and really what they care about is cash. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Daryl wants proof.
Daryl wants proof.
See, we're in the same room, Daryl. Daryl says, hey, I want you guys to prove you're in the same room right now. On the count of 3, stand up and slap each other.
I can't stand up.
I'm not standing up. Well, you can't, because you're not wearing pants.
Sometimes you just don't need to wear pants on a hot day. You just sit here and, you just do your show.
Go ahead, keep explaining it. Keep explaining. Okay, just by yourself there. I'm not going to say a word. Okay. So
there was another good question up here too, but I think Wayne asked the question here. Wayne wants to know where the third-party crematoriums are. Well, Susan and Wayne, there's a lot of third-party crematoriums in the city. I don't want to mention their names because we don't want to set ourselves up for any kind of a lawsuit or defamation of
no,
character.
you just have to do your own homework.
You could go onto the funeral board website, and it tells you who the licensed crematoriums are in the city of Winnipeg. And if they're not on there, they don't have a crematorium. They're subcontracting, not wearing pants, guys. Well, Al, you can't prove that. That's making, a definition of character there.
Don't worry, Al, I got a picture coming right.
Oh, that's funny. So yeah, sometimes you're told you must buy an urn.
This isn't a comedy show,
You're told you must buy an urn or a vault, and that's not true. You don't have to buy an urn from a funeral home. You just don't have to. Many families, we tell families, bring in something of sentimental value. We even tell some families, go on Amazon, go somewhere, find an urn that you like, and bring it in, and we'll place the cremated remains in there for you. Or a lot of people are bringing in, keepsake jewelry. So they find jewelry that they like somewhere, they bring it in, and we help it with them.
So let's get into cemeteries and some of the stuff that goes on. Obviously, the scams and the, what do they call those? The burial lies. And yeah, it's a good time to do that. Would have been. Let's see here. We've got corporate homes. They're going to push certain cemeteries, aren't they? And
so I'm going to tell you something about corporate homes. So you go to a So most funeral homes in the city of Winnipeg right now,
do
what
they
they're
own their
doing
own
is
cemeteries?
Yeah, all they do. They own the two main players.
Have you thought of doing that?
No, I'm not interested in owning a cemetery. I could have owned a cemetery a while back. I just want to serve families. I don't want to be in the funeral in the cemetery business. I don't want to pretend I'm in the cemetery business. There's people out there that own cemeteries, and we just use those cemeteries that are there. Why add another cemetery to the city of Winnipeg when there's...
You got to shovel snow in the winter just alone at all the different
I don't want to
places.
be in a front-end loader all day cleaning snow.
Next thing you got to do is cut the grass, eh? Yeah.
No kidding. Can you imagine the maintenance on cemeteries? But anyways, so most of the corporate funeral homes in the city of Winnipeg now will make you buy a liner. It's terrible. So and that's why people are switching to cremations instead of traditional burials. The cemeteries are causing this upon themselves. They tell you that you have to buy a liner. What is a liner? It could be a cement vault.
Isn't that what's underneath your on your headstone? That
No. A vault is
once I was here, but now I have gone. No?
a vault is something that's in the ground,
Yeah.
and then the casket goes into that vault, and then it's covered.
Is it made out of cement?
So you
or
can get
what's it made out of?
steel, cement, all kinds of things. But they're mandatory at these funeral homes, so they make you purchase them.
What's the purpose of that vault?
I think the purchase of that vault myself
the
personally-
purpose.
The
The
purpose.
purpose. Yeah, the
purpose is to
purpose.
make these funeral homes more money. These cemeteries more money. See, the burials are down, and the way they can make more money is by selling you things that they tell you are mandatory, like cemetery vaults, cremation vaults. So if you go to any of the city of Winnipeg cemeteries, which I recommend all the time, by the way, Brookside Cemetery, St. Vital Cemetery, Transcona Cemetery, they do not make you buy vaults. You can place the casket right into the ground, and for a lot of people, it's tradition. The reason they get buried is ashes to ashes, dust to dust. They want the body to go back to the earth and eventually become part of the dirt again.
Sure.
And that vaults don't allow that to happen. Now, some people get vaults for the purpose of, well, let's just say there was lots of water in that area. Where you go to some cemeteries, and that's something you need to know about. You go to some cemeteries, and 2 minutes before you're pulling in, they're pumping water out of that grave. And then when you leave, it's loaded with water again.
Goes right back up.
But you got to understand something, and this is why you can't let them play on your emotions. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, meaning that you're not part of your body anymore. Your body was just an earthly tool, a tent you used while you were here on earth, and you packed it up and left. No different than camping. Our bodies are made to be disposed of after.
Yeah.
And whether you place them in the ground, whether you place them in the cremator, some people say, well, I don't want to be eaten by bugs. No, I don't want to be eaten by bugs. I don't like dark spaces. I don't like heat. I don't want to be put in a fire. So all these people playing all these emotional things in their mind, well, really, you shouldn't have to worry about that. Remember your loved one for who they were, the things that they did, the legacy that they left behind, the memories that you shared together, and that's what's important. Not the burial ground, not the crematorium, but those memories that you carry on, that legacy that you carry on forever, almost like what I'm doing for Kyriakis.
Yeah.
You know, he lived a life. He deserved to be remembered. His legacy will live on through his 3 brothers and his mom, and we'll do everything we can to keep his memory and legacy alive.
I just want to make a quick note here. Al Bueller, please no posting pictures in the chat room, okay?
Is he posting pictures of him?
No, he has not. But they were talking about some stuff in the chat room that just made
Well,
me go,
Bueller, you better
Al,
not
no,
do that, because
no
guess
posting
what?
Pictures.
I have a picture of you that you don't want me posting.
Okay, so let's get back to.
Look at this. Gord says, there's always somebody criticizing you, right? I think Voyage could improve an image by getting 50s and 60s hearses and limos.
Yeah.
Well, that would be pretty cool.
He had a really cool one that he posts. He sent it to me.
He
the other
sends
day.
me. Does he send them?
Yeah,
too?
he sends me.
He
too.
sends me all of them, and I love when he sends me those pictures. And there's some pretty
There's
cool,
some really cool
hearse-
ones.
You know, it'd be really.
There was one for sale.
Can
here
you
in
imagine
Winnipeg.
driving like an old hearse in an actual procession? That'd be so cool.
Well, you put a speaker on the roof, so you can talk through the walkie-talkie or the microphone as you're driving.
Daryl says, concrete does not keep water
Sure.
out. And I would have to agree with you 100%. So, Daryl, here's what I tell families. I tell families, if you're selecting a vault and you're doing it to protect the casket or your loved one, just think about what that does outside. So eventually cement cracks and water goes through those cracks. Those steel vaults that are sealed, obviously those are airtight. But you could buy airtight caskets.
They rust.
They rust.
Steel rust. Anybody knows that.
Janet says, my late husband is buried, and I chose to cremate and place my urn in the same plot as him. So that's something else I wanted to talk about as part of the cemetery stuff. So cemeteries don't tell you that you could put up to 3 urns in the same plot where a casket's at. One at the head, one in the middle, and one at the foot of the casket. And
Really?
you don't have to buy the plot again.
No kidding.
All you got to do is pay for the opening and closing. So there's another secret, something else that I could tell you. It's just exposing cemeteries to the point where they hate you. You could buy cemetery plots off Kijiji and Marketplace. And that's scary, right? So you don't make a Tim Hortons deal. You make a deal to buy these cemeteries. Why are people selling cemetery plots? First question, right?
With the markup.
Well, a lot of people, bought plots way back for $100, $200 and now decided to be cremated. So they want to sell the plot.
Yeah, cremation wasn't a big thing.
Cremation
like
was a big thing
30 years ago.
So then you want to buy a plot because your wishes are traditional burial, maybe having 3 urns in with you. So you could buy that plot off Kijiji or Marketplace for literally half the price, if not less than half the price than you'd pay. Then you got to meet at the funeral home, and there's a fee for transferring over that deed to your name. So once you transfer it over to your name, it's yours. Then you can, do the money exchange. But don't ever do a Tim Hortons, parking lot money. You're going to get scammed.
How much is to open a plot?
So opening a plot, it depends on which cemetery. It's different. The corporate cemeteries are more money. Brookside, the city of Winnipeg cemeteries are less money. And there's still a lot of... So your best bet on cemeteries are out of town. Out of town cemeteries are your least expensive choices because they're old church properties or they're just out of town that have a whole different value to death than the corporates do.
Right. So listen...
Corporates push their own cemeteries.
That's what they do.
So, you go into a corporate cemetery and they'll use a scam like this. Well, if you don't use our funeral home that's located on the cemetery property, you can't use our cemetery. What a lie. A straight out lie. And that's what a commission salesperson would do. A funeral director, I don't think, would ever say that to you. But you could use the funeral home. You don't have to use the funeral home located on the cemetery property. You could use Voyage Funeral Home. We service all cemeteries across Manitoba, and all cemeteries need to let the funeral home in to provide services.
What's the $20,000 scam, Mike?
The $20,000 scam.
The grave scam.
Well,
That's
$8,000 for a plot, $1,895 for the opening and closing, $4,000 for the bronze marker, $995 for a maintenance fee. That's what it is. They keep selling you things. So with a burial, with a
Dying with
cemeteries,
$20,000 bill, priceless.
and that's why it's priceless. And that's why a lot of people have moved away from traditional burials. I mean,
Right.
$8,000 for a plot.
That's
It's
crazy.
in the section of the resurrection. They put up all these big names. You go in there and you go, oh my God, I can't believe it. $1,895 just to take the dirt out, put the dirt back in. Then they want to sell you a bronze marker that's with a
Bury me in
the
a place
person's
that
name.
says that I'm going to come back to life.
maintenance
That's great.
fee. That's not even
Sounds good.
including. That's not even including the vault.
No?
So add another, maybe $3,500, $4,500 for a vault. There you go.
Oh, that's just a large day at the bank. Like, people have to take out, a loan to do this?
And that's why, choosing the right funeral home is important. It's almost like, let's just say you're going to buy a brand new truck. You don't walk into one dealership and just buy that truck because you like it. You shop around. And that's what you need to do with funeral service. You need to shop around and compare and make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. And, apples to apples, not apples to oranges.
Perpetual care fee trick?
So
What's
perpetual care is a one-time fee that you pay. Don't get tricked by this. When you're doing funeral arrangements or buying cemetery property, they charge you perpetual care.
Who charges you?
The cemetery. What's perpetual care? They could take X amount of money out
What about the municipality?
each year, and that money goes towards maintaining the cemetery.
Okay.
So this is the cemetery that's charging you this. It's something that should be put in trust. And like I said, every year they're allowing you to take so much out to keep that cemetery in good standing order.
Right.
So that's the perpetual care charge. You don't want to be double billed for this.
How do you get double billed? Who else is involved?
You go in, you make funeral arrangements after the person's died, after they're pre-planned, and they say, oh, you got to pay for perpetual care. Meanwhile, you've already paid for it when you bought the plots. It's things like that that
I
you
mean,
got to
somebody's
watch
going to
for.
cut the grass and do all the maintenance.
Yeah, that's perpetual care. What's Daryl Inkster saying? You could read this one. Yeah, take the camera over there for a second. If you
I
want.
can do that too. Okay, so Daryl says, oh, that moved really quick. I'm going to have to grab that mouse from you there, buddy. The other one. That one. Thank you, yes. Let's see here what Daryl had to say. He says, I still have a hydro digger truck. I'm going to drill a 36-inch hole, 12 foot deep, and the old lady can stuff me in the standing up. It takes less than a space, and I can talk to the moon man. There you go.
So let's talk about legal lies. Legalize. If you have any questions,
Legalize?
Legalize.
Legalese.
Lies.
Lies.
How do we get this off of here? Just go.
Why would there be legal lies?
There we go. Are we frozen? No, we're not frozen.
No, we're not frozen. We're still going. We're just behind over there.
So,
Legal lies. Legal lies. Lies. Like liars. Okay.
liars. How do you protect yourself?
So, hands up. Other cemeteries may not actually accept our funeral services. The truth is, they must, by law, accept services from outside homes.
So that's what I'm talking about. When you have, a family-run funeral home,
Yeah.
and let's just say we go to one of the local cemeteries in the city, they can't tell you that funeral home is not allowed here. So, under the Cemeteries Act, funeral homes like Voyage can service any cemetery across Manitoba.
Really?
So keep that in mind. Just because you have pre-planned arrangements at another funeral home doesn't mean you can't transfer them to Voyage. And most of the time, when you transfer your pre-plan to Voyage, we write you a check for a whole whack of money back because you overpaid. And that's another part that we need to talk about is, can you transfer your pre-plan to Voyage? Yes. They tell you you can't. They tell you, no, you have to stay with us. We use insurance funds. So those insurance funds are transferable to any funeral home across Canada or the world. You can also buy travel insurance. You can buy all kinds of insurance. But if you're pre-planned, if your mom and dad are pre-planned, and you think you've paid too much, which you probably did, come to Voyage, show us, transfer your plan over, and we will take care of you. And not only that, you'll get a whole whack of money back and get the same services you originally wanted.
You got a general price list?
So a lot of funeral homes don't have general price lists. So you go in, first thing you should ask for is a general price list. When you come to Voyage, we have a brochure when you come there. And our 4 services that we offer the most.
All package deals?
Yeah. Simple cremation.
20,000,
Simple
40,000,
cremation,
60,000?
1,600.
Oh, not.
Everything's included. Then we go to cremation with a memorial service. We go with a rental casket,
Yeah.
with a cremation of all and a traditional burial. Those are the 4 options people use the most. We have everything in writing, plus our price on every brochure. You go to some funeral homes, they give you a general price thing. But
Brochure, but no
give you
prices.
a brochure with no pricing on it. And then as you're sitting with this salesperson, he's going, oh, do you want the limousine? Click.
Ching, ching.
Do you want your loved one in bond? Click. Do you want a casket? Click. It goes on and on and on, right? Oh, you should get an extra limousine for the pallbearers. Click. And we never do that at Voyage. We say, you know what? The limousine is usually for the family. The pallbearers usually come in their own vehicles.
Yeah.
Because usually they just want to go home afterwards. Can you transfer
Yeah.
from other provinces to Voyage? Absolutely. So if you're using Assurant Life or True Stage, you can transfer your policy from any province, anywhere in Canada, to Voyage Funeral Home in Winnipeg. And a lot of people do that. Since this show has started, we've literally transferred hundreds of policies over where the pre-plan company, the insurance company, is saying to us, how come so many people are transferring their policies over to you guys?
Because we're smart.
We literally have millions and millions of dollars in pre-planned funds. Pre-planned funds cannot be touched. People are worried about that. They say, what happens to my money? What happens if Voyage goes broke or one of these other funeral homes tomorrow morning? What happens to my hard-earned money? I'll tell you what happens to it. It never goes into our bank account. Your money goes to an insurance policy. It's held there, and it gains interest, 3% compound every year, and we have no access to that money until you die. But we guarantee that you'll never pay any more than the price that you were quoted the day you came in to make arrangements. So let's just say you did cremation at $1,600 today, or traditional burial at $7,000, and you live for 20 years or 30 years. You still only pay $7,000. That's crazy. We lock it in at today's price.
That's great.
Always ask, are you a licensed funeral director? Can I see a general price list? Where's your crematorium? Are you affiliated with any cemetery? Can I take this quote and think about it? So we had a family come in.
Those are all red flags, aren't they?
Yeah, these are red flags. The red flags are these. I'm going to go over the red flags with you. No mention of itemized pricing.
Yeah.
So you go in and nobody mentions anything about itemized pricing. You just are told that, they're urging you to act fast. We need to act now. There's 5 other families waiting for this date. We need to set you up for the cremation. Otherwise, you're going to wait another 3 weeks because we're so backed up at the crematorium. And then if you have somebody guilt trip after guilt trip, Brad, you're going to buy that urn for your father? Didn't your father deserve more? Didn't your father deserve something classy, something elegant, something that reminds you of your dad? Those are guilt selling procedures that they use, and they work half the time.
Mm-hmm.
They work because it plays on your emotions, and then they hide the lower cost options. So a lot of families come in and they say, well, what's your least expensive urn? Guess what I say? Our least expensive urn is a cardboard container. It comes with the package, and the cremator remains in there. And so many times I've said to families, I am a terrible salesperson, and they laugh because they see that I've never tried to sell them anything. And nobody at Voyage, none of our staff, who we consider family, can ever sell you anything because it's all in writing and everybody is treated equally, and it's the best practice. Take time. Take your time. Grief clouds your judgment. Bring someone with you for support. Don't feel obligated to choose on the spot. Shop around. Ask questions. And never be afraid to walk out even if they use, the theory of, oh, your mom or your dad are in our morgue right now, and do you want to have them moved again? Do you want them transferred a second time? Remember, the body is only the body. It was your mom and dad at one time. It was a tool they used to get through life, but this tool is no longer needed. The Bible says that we'll be given a new body. So when we leave our bodies on earth, again, I'll say it, to be absent from the bodies, be present with the Lord, and it provided a new body with no pain and no suffering.
Families deserve dignity, not deception. That's what this show was all about tonight, right, Mike?
Yeah, it's about dignity, not deception. And there's lots of deception, and we need to shut that down so people know there's right or wrong.
And I guess if a funeral provider avoids questions or, uses emotion to push a sale, it's not really a place to stay, right? You're going to get out of there pretty quick.
You have a right to walk out whenever you'd like. So if you're... Another thing that happens all the time is a care home, you'll lose a loved one at a care home. They'll send a loved one to a funeral home of their choice. And then you walk in the morning because your mom or dad are in this funeral home. And then they take advantage of you like crazy. But you can walk out. You can say, no, I'm walking out. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, you'll feel that, won't you? You'll feel it in your gut.
You'll feel an uncomfortable feeling. You know how you get this feeling?
Under your collar?
It's basically educate yourself today for peace of mind tomorrow. Protect your loved ones. Share this episode with others so they know that end of life is important. End of life choices are important. Use a funeral home that's dignified, that's caring, that's compassionate. All funeral directors are caring individuals. It's who they work for that makes the difference.
Absolutely.
There's a difference between corporate and private. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ask the Funeral Director. Is there any questions we can go back and answer?
Yeah, I got one. I got one. We're at 10 o'clock, but
10 o'clock.
Let's just ask you, what's coming up next week? Because next week's another big show.
Next week, I got to work on next week's show.
Headed into June.
Got to work on next week's show.
You said we might want to discuss this right here. Is that the topic? I don't know.
Mental health? Oh, that's from our last one that we used.
We did do that one. That one took off. A lot of people watching that one still.
Well, there's a lot more
back.
that's come up about MAID in the last couple of weeks also, and people are saying, well, show us evidence. Well, we can definitely show you evidence. But I can guarantee you next week will be another awesome show. Don't forget to like, share, and follow us. I was talking to Brad about this today. Facebook and YouTube and other channels that we're using are kind of shadow banning us.
Yeah.
I hate to use that word, but shadow banning us where you're seeing the show is not growing.
Blocking us.
They're blocking us. We're not getting...
nearly the views that we should get, nearly the likes, the shares.
The average funeral show
comments
is in the thousands and thousands of views. Hundreds of thousands of views.
There's some real bad shows out there, Mike, and 197,000 likes and views, and I'm going, well, what are we doing wrong? And then when you checked into it, you found out that YouTube and Facebook are all basically saying some nasty stuff.
Well, they're basically
about
saying that we're not following community standards, and because we're not following community standards, our show will not grow and will not go any further than what we're doing now. So yeah,
it takes your help.
We can fight back. It takes your help. Please share,
but
follow, and like the show.
One of the neat things about this show is that we don't charge any money. You're not going to get anything extra on the back end. You have to go in some private area to look at stuff. It's all for free here. We're going to keep it that way.
There's no catch to the show. We don't ask you for any money. We don't ask you to support the show to keep it on air. We don't ask you to pay Brad extra money because he's hosting it. This is something we do from our hearts because we care.
Yep.
We love you and your families. We want you to be educated. We'd never want you to be taken advantage of. And that's why this show's here. Many, many people ask me, why are you doing a show like this? You don't have to. It's because I care. And I have a big heart. And I want you and your loved ones to never, ever be taken advantage of and to have that ammo you need to fight back when it's time to fight back. God bless you and your families. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you next time.